Good morning, crafters, and welcome to Creative Moments by G. I'm Georgia, and so happy that you're with us today. Oh my goodness, it is February 22nd of 2022. Now, that has to be something, right? 2/22/22. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a lucky day. We are so excited about today's session. We are going to be working with inking over layering. Now, when you do this technique, it really makes it look like you've either embossed your mat for your cards, or maybe you've even run it through your stencil and you've used gesso and you've used one of these paddles, right? To go ahead and really glide it over your stencil. But that's kind of messy. This technique is not messy at all, but it gives you a beautiful background for your cards. I want to remind you that if you are watching us live, go ahead and hop on and chat. Maudie, my sister, is over there just waiting to chat with you, answer any questions that you might have. We do this journey, creative journey together, and we have so much fun. And also during the session, if you'd give us a thumbs up, we sure would appreciate it. And we would love it if you'd subscribe to our channel. But let's go ahead and head down to the crafting table and let me show you the card that we're going to make. Hang on just a second. Okay, look at this beautiful card. Now, do you see the butterflies right here that we have added to this mat? And then we went ahead and we picked the same color so that we had tone on tone, and we just very lightly brushed over it with our blending tool. And it creates that beautiful background. Now, you can use any die cutting that you have, or so that's what makes this so nice. You can use any die cutting that you have. Hey, Joan, welcome. So happy you're here with us. So let me show you what we need to do. We are going to create a top fold card and a side fold card. So you'll want to go ahead and get your base cards cut. And remember, give us about an hour and all the measurements will be listed over on creativemomentsbyg.com. So you don't have to worry about taking down the measurements. Just enjoy yourself. Okay, now we are going to do, as I said, tone on tone. So you'll want to take the same colored cardstock as you have for your base card. Good morning, Catherine from Vancouver, Canada. So happy that you're here with us. And what we have done is we have used the Forever Ferns. Now, you can use any dies that you have, but we really love these leaves. And so we picked out some leaves and we just cut out a bunch of them. And let me show you. We cut them out in Flirty Flamingo. So now what we need to do is go ahead and take a mat. And what you want to do is have it the exact size as your card. You know, a lot of times we use a mat and we cut it smaller, but this is going to go from side to side. So let's go ahead and get out our glue. Today we're going to use Berry Art Precision Glue because we really have some tiny, tiny places that we have to add glue to. So let's go ahead and make sure we have the right side of this because there are some little embossed areas on this leaf. And now you just have to go about and get your glue. And now I know this glue works. Yep, there we go. And just put it in different places because you do want it to be completely glued down to your mat because you will be using your blending tool to go over it. Now I'm just going to bring this in right here and press it down. And we're going to move on to the next one. Now I'm going to go ahead and snip off this little stem because I don't want that on there. And we just go through the process again of putting our glue on all the areas to make sure that it is glued down. Okay? And really, you want to make sure that you have really covered a lot of your mat, because when you go over it with the blending tool, you really don't want it to get on the very base of your card. So this is such a pretty technique as you work creating a beautiful background. So we're just going to get our little glue dots. And what makes it so nice is you may not have Forever Fern, but you have another die that you feel would be really pretty. So you could just go ahead and use that. So we're going to go ahead and just lay that right in the middle. Press it down. Now we're going to come in. What's great about this is we are actually going to be using this to create 2 cards. So it's not just 1 card. We're going to create 2 cards. And I love this tone on tone. Now you could go ahead and do a different color if you wanted to, but I think tone on tone is just really elegant. So we're going to push that down right there. Now I'm going to come in with one right here. I'm going to snip off that stem and go ahead, get some glue on it. I love this Berry Art glue. It has such a precision tip on it that makes it so nice. And look at how we're coming. So far, very pretty. We just need a little bit right here and right here. And we have 2 left for us to do that. So we're just going to put it like this. Let's see, I think about right there. So I just need to glue it just on the very edge. And I like it anytime I can make 2 cards with 1 background, right? So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to just fold him over. And now we're going to come in with our last one. Glue it right here. This technique is just really great. I think for those of us who don't like to get messy with the other mediums like gesso and so forth, this allows us to do the same thing. Okay. So here we have covered our entire background. And so the next thing we need to do is go ahead and cut off the additional that goes over the mat. Now, I have a fantastic pair of scissors that is just for that. It has a non-stick blade on it, and we simply got it at our crafting store. And it is so nice because you don't have to worry about messing up your nice scissors. These are super nice, but the adhesive won't stick to it. So I would encourage you, if you do something like this, so you don't mess up your scissors, go ahead and get a non-stick pair of scissors. We're just going to move this out of the way and cut. Okay, we need to snip a little bit here. Hey, Susan, good morning. So happy that you've joined us. Okay, so let me throw that to the side. Oh, we have just a few more that we have to snip off. Right here. And now, because you have decorated the entire mat, we are going to not cut it in half because we're going to make 2 cards. So we're going to cut maybe 2 inches down, and then we'll have 2 different cards to use. So let's go ahead and get out our trimmer, and I'm going to put it at the 2-inch mark. And let's get that all lined. I want to make sure that this is completely lined up. I still have a little bit right there, so I'm going to get that cut off because I need it to be lined up really straight. Okay. So let's go ahead and try that again. There we go. Now, you want to make sure that you really hold down because you do have all those leaves on there, and you may have missed a spot with your glue. So make sure that you really hold down on your guide and just go ahead and slice it. And there we have it. Look at that. So pretty. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take our Flirty Flamingo, and we're going to take our blending brush, and we're just going to go over it. Now, I like to always start off the actual mat just to see how dark it is. And now we're just very lightly going to go over it. And it really defines whatever image you have put on your card. Now, you can use a heavy hand or you can use a light hand. I don't want to get it on the bottom part of the mat. I want to try to stay as much as possible on the image. And what I like about this is that it really creates a halo effect around the image. You'll see in just a moment when I show you. It kind of goes darker where the image connects to the mat, but yet it still stays light on the background. I really, really like that. That's why it's important to go ahead and get it as close together as you can. And my goodness, this creates such interest on your card. We really like this. Okay, now look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my goodness. Now let's do the other one. Start off the card and just bring it in. And like I said, you can decide to go heavier if you want, or something else you could do is you could always just go around the edges if you wanted it to be darker and create like a frame. But I want to just stay with this and just really make those leaves pop. And this is simply called inking over layering technique. Really like this. Okay, now look at this one. Really makes those leaves pop, doesn't it? Now we're going to bring in our base cards and we're going to see how we want to decorate them with this technique. So we know that it's exactly the right size. So let's just put those right to this right side by side. We have this one, and on this one, we can put right at the top. Now, we can go ahead and glue those down. And for that, I'm going to use just a little bit bigger glue. Let's see, we'll just get this because there's more space. I'm going to go ahead and just put this down right here. And then we're going to emboss the top part with a beautiful color, one of my favorites, yes, Rich Razzleberry. Oh my goodness, I love that. And with the Flirty Flamingo, it comes out so pretty. And the flower set we're going to use is the Dahlia. But once again, you can use any flower set that you have. Now, what also gives a card like this interest is using a strip, right? So we are going to put a strip of color right here, and then we're going to bring in some beautiful glitter paper, and we're going to add that. So let's go ahead and just very lightly put some glue down so we can add our strip. I'm going to make it a little bit wider because we know we have two strips. We're going to add our small one, and I would suggest you not having them be the same size because I think it creates more interest if you have different sizes. So we're going to go ahead and add this one on both cards. And when we bring in those flowers, oh my goodness, makes it so pretty. So let's go ahead and cut this off using our scissors. And we're going to put that up here and bring this one in. Go ahead and lay it down. And I think this technique, there are so many possibilities with it. Okay. Let's see if this is long enough. Just right. How did I do that? I cut it just exactly the right length. That's crazy. So now we have our glitter paper. We're going to cut that off. And now we're going to come in with our rich razzleberry, but we have to emboss it. So we're going to emboss it using this beautiful textured embossing folder. And you don't have to emboss it. If you don't have an embossing folder, go ahead and just stamp your message right here and add your flowers at the top and you'll be fine. But we want to go ahead and just emboss it. We think that really adds some more interest to the card. So let's get that. Okay, you have to offset it a little bit. And let's see what that is going to look like. And look at this. Look at how pretty that is. Oh my goodness. Now we're starting to get some color, right? Now we just need a small area for this. So we're going to put in another sheet, emboss it. We love this textured folder. So pretty. Now, how many do you use mediums? Do you use other mediums? Have you used the gesso to get the same effect as this? Let us know. We'd love to know if you use gesso or if you're kind of like us and now you have another technique to use and you don't have to get messy with the gesso. So that's what we like to do. So let's go ahead and lay this down. And because this is embossed, you want to make sure that you get it in the crevices. Okay. Oh, and look at that. So pretty. Now what you'll need to do is turn it over and cut off this additional part using your scissors that do not stick to glue, which is so nice. Okay, we have a little strip, so we have this one, and now we're simply going to add this one, and we need to cut it. Let me measure and see what we need to cut. We need to cut it a 1/16 past 1.5. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and cut this the width of the card, which we know is 4 1/4, and we need it to be 1/16 past 1.5. So we're going to line that up, cut it, and we're going to add it right here at the top. So let's get our glue. And we have a poll over on our YouTube page under Community tab. So after this, if you'd run over and take that, that would be great. Okay, so we have the 2 base cards done. Now we're going to add our flowers, and we're going to add dahlias. And we are using the beautiful dahlia set. Now, we absolutely love this flower, and I'm going to show you, if you haven't used it, a little technique that you might want to use when you're stamping this. Now, when you stamp a dahlia, at least this particular flower, you can do a dark one, first generation, that's your first stamp. But you can also then stamp it again as a second generation, and you get a completely different color. Look at that. You would think that you stamped it with a completely different purple, but not true. Now, another technique that I'd like to show you that we like to do sometimes when we have our flowers or our leaves is we take, now where did it go? We take our our dauber, and we stamp it in the lighter color. So we're going to take Flirty Flamingo, and we're going to stamp our flower. We're going to ink it up really good, and then we're just going to come in a little bit with the purple, the rich razzleberry, or any other color, and just go over the edges to create some interest. Now let's look at that. See what we have. And look at that. Oh my goodness, we didn't even have to blend. Now, you could go in and you could go in with your Flirty Flamingo and then just kind of go over it just a little bit with your rich razzleberry to create a different color. So there are so many techniques that you can do. See, that really gives it that ombre coloring. So many different things you can do with a dauber. We love our daubers. But we went ahead and stamped all our dahlias, and we cut them out so that all we have to do is decide where we want to adhere them to the card. Now, we are going to raise these up on dimensionals because that also gives some more interest to the card. So let's just go ahead and lay these out and see where we might want to place them. I think one will have 3 because we also have some leaves, and then we have our cutout that we're just going to add right down here. So I think that one looks good with the leaves. Now on this one, we went ahead, the stamp set has this beautiful label. So we're going to go ahead and stamp our sentiment right here, and we can add it right there and then maybe tuck a flower behind it or just tuck some leaves. So let's go ahead and get that stamped. And we are going to stamp it in rich razzleberry. And we're going to hope that we can stamp it straight. So we're going to line this up using our grid paper. Just get that lined up. And we're going to use this stamp. Thank you for your kindness. Get it inked up. And hold it. And just hold it for good contact. And look at that. So pretty. The sentiment came out perfectly. I love that font. So we're going to bring this one back in, and we are just going to set that one right there up on dimensionals. And then we will add the mat to the inside of the card and see what we think about adding a flower to that as well. So we're just going to take off the dimensional backings, line this up right in the center. Okay, and now, because it's raised, if you wanted to add like half a flower, you could cut it out just a little bit, add it down here, which I think it might be pretty. Let me see. I'm going to see what happens when I cut it. I'm going to cut just a triangle and see if that gets it past those dimensionals. Oh, and it does. So we're going to go ahead and set this up on a dimensional, and then we're going to add some leaves around it. Just one little dimensional. Get this tucked away right there. And now we're going to add just a few leaves right here, just for some interest. And we'll go ahead and use a mini dimensionals. These are so cute. So small. And get that added right there. Okay. Maybe we'll add one more over here. So just use another dimensional. Okay. So here's the front of one of our cards. Now let's bring this one over and add dimensionals to these flowers.
Edward Jones, Tim Gilliam.
Okay. And we're going to just add a dimensional. And let's add another dimensional. We're going to stay in the middle, and that way we can add our, hang on just a second. There we go. We're up and running again. Okay. We're going to add it in the middle so that we can add our leaves. And you want to make sure that you don't go over your card. So we'll just go ahead and add that right like this. We're going to add some leaves with our smaller dimensionals. And let's see, we'll tuck that one in right there. And then we'll put 2 down here. Let's see how that looks. Just tuck it in. That's why it's so important to use dimensionals. That way they fit right underneath your flower. We'll go ahead and just tuck that in right there. And there we have it. Now, we need to go ahead and add our sentiment that we cut out. We just stamped and cut around it. We do that quite often. I think it adds something. You could never stamp this paper. One, it's too dark, so you would have to emboss on it. If you wanted to wet emboss, you could do something like that. So let's go ahead and add our dimensionals. And just put it right here in the corner. Now we're going to flip this up and just add our mats on the inside. And stay with us because I have 2 other cards to show you that used a different die to go ahead and create this layering technique. So pretty. So we're just going to leave that blank because that gives you plenty of time to decide exactly what you want to say. You could go ahead and stamp a flower on the inside, but for us, our purposes this morning, we're just going to leave that. So what do you think about these cards? Oh my goodness. Let me just see. Here we go. Hey, Pat. Welcome. We're so happy that you're with us today. We are showing the 2 cards that we made today. And we are just, hang on just a second. I'm just doing that. And I'm going to get, okay. So I really like the contrast in this. I love that inking over layering. Such a pretty technique. Creates that halo effect where it really gets down right around the images, but doesn't get onto the base card and really gives you that raised impression. Now, I showed you this butterfly one that we did, but let me show you the other butterfly. You know, we make 2 cards out of 1, so here is the bigger portion of it. We just went in and embossed both these areas. And then we made our 2 cards out of this. Look at those beautiful ferns from Forever Fern. And you can see, once again, we used tone on tone. We used the same color, Old Olive cardstock. And we also used it for the base and we used it for the ink to create it. And we think that really it adds it so much dimension to it if you go ahead and emboss the other colors. I mean, emboss the other side of the card. Well, let us know what you think about this. We really appreciate your time this morning, and we hope you learned something new. Inking over layering. We think it's so pretty. For those of us who don't have embossing folders or you don't have stencils, but you have a lot of dies, pull those dies out and see which ones would be pretty and add interest to your card. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We want you to go out and have a fantastic day. And we will see you hopefully on Thursday at 7 p.m. where we're going to work with another beautiful card. Go out and have a fantastic day. See you later. Bye-bye.